Hi, my name is Ashley Voeks. I am an implementation consultant at McGraw-Hill. I earned my PhD from the University of Texas in May of 2019. And after my PhD, I went to Oakland University in Michigan for a position as a visiting assistant professor, after which I moved to Lubbock, Texas to take a job as an assistant professor of French and have since pivoted to industry. Midsummer, I was searching on the MLA, job ads, and I was also preparing to submit resumes and things like that for industry roles. And a visiting position happened to come up, and so I applied. Ultimately, academia didn't end up being something that I was interested in staying in long term. But I think it took being in that role to start to, figure out what was working and what wasn't working and what I wanted for myself. Honestly learned my most important career lessons from non-academic friends in Austin, actually, and from family members, most of whom were not college educated, but who had made careers for themselves by finding and fine-tuning their skills as they went along. And what I learned, and I guess this kind of falls into the category of advice, was be curious, right? Ask questions relentlessly. Look at challenges not as stressors, but as things that make you dig deep and learn. And so being curious and surrounding myself with creative and proactive people made such a difference in my journey when the time came to really think about next steps, both after graduate school and when I ultimately made the decision to leave a tenure track role to pivot to industry. A year into my role at Texas Tech University, I started to think a lot about the way that I work and if that way of working would be sustainable in the long term. And I'm someone who really values and works well in change. And, of course, when everything was changing with the pandemic in 2020 and, everyone was having to pivot to online modalities, I found, in a strange way, that I kind of thrived in that environment, that I was up to the challenge. I was ready to take on those challenges. And I found that the change and needing to adapt was something that was a skill area that I hadn't thought about before. They weren't necessarily things that I wanted to do in the long term. And I never thought about that until I was on the job, until I was thinking about, okay, what is my career going to look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Do I want it to look similar to what it does now, or do I want change? And for me, that answer was change. A typical day, there are typical days. On a typical day, so I work remotely, and I host about 4 to 6 one-on-one Zoom meetings with faculty from colleges and universities in North Texas and parts of Oklahoma and Arkansas. That's kind of my assigned district within my role at McGraw-Hill. And I help facilitate the implementation of digital learning tools in courses in really any academic discipline for which my company, McGraw-Hill, has a learning platform or digital tools. I consider my role as being responsible for both faculty success and, by extension, student success. I train faculty to use our learning platforms effectively and ideally with confidence. I often troubleshoot, even though I'm not technically tech support, I often troubleshoot when faculty experience minor technical issues. I collaborate with our partners in sales to make sure that new and existing customers are utilizing our products to their full potential. I think that the pedagogical training that I received at the University of Texas was very, very valuable and is incredibly relevant in my day-to-day work. Because again, I work with faculty, professors all day long. So it's helpful and imperative, I would even say, that I understand and can talk about learning theories, that I can talk about learning modalities, curriculum design principles, those kinds of things. So my teaching experiences and my learning experiences that led me to teaching, I think prepared me well for a role in ed tech and really just the non-academic side of higher education. So I would talk about things like my cultural competencies, my pedagogical training. I would focus and kind of pick areas from my PhD, because a PhD program, you do so many different things. It's not just the dissertation. Of course, talking about the dissertation in terms of how you can, think about or process large amounts of information and condense them down into manageable, parts that are digestible from a wide range of audiences. Those kinds of things I think are helpful in an interview type situation. Thinking about the skills that you have in a PhD program, if something seems like a stretch, just go with it. Because if it is a stretch and it's not the right fit, depending on how you approach the interview, how you approach the application process, if somebody finds something in you, they're going to find a place for you.